I won't rush you. I promise, the millionaire groom told his shy bride on their first night as husband and wife. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's get back to our main character. The mansion looked unreal under the soft glow of the evening lights, its tall windows reflecting the last streaks of gold across the city skyline. Emma stood at the bottom of the marble staircase, hands cold against the bouquet she hadn't even chosen. Her breath trembled, barely held together under layers of satin and nerves. Just an hour ago, she had been a struggling art teacher trying to survive another overdue rent notice. Now she was a bride, on paper, at least, bound to the most intimidating man she had ever met. Liam Hayes, the heir to Hayes Industries, a name that made people lower their voices and sit straighter. The proposal hadn't been romantic. It had been a lifeline thrown at the exact moment her world was collapsing. Her landlord had given her 72 hours. Her mother's medical bills had doubled. And the school where she taught part-time had cut her hours again. She had nowhere left to turn, until he walked into her life like a storm contained inside a designer suit. Marry me, he had said in that quiet, decisive tone that didn't leave room for doubt. Call it a contract. You'll help me stop a board takeover, and in return, I'll take care of your family's expenses for the next year. No strings, unless you want there to be. Emma remembered staring at him, stunned. A man like him, perfect hair, gold watch, voice smooth enough to slice through the chaos, could have chosen anyone, yet he had chosen her, the girl who couldn't even afford a full tank of gas. She had whispered yes because she had no other choice. And because somewhere inside her, beneath the fear and confusion, she sensed a softness in him he tried hard to hide. Now, hours later, after the courthouse ceremony and stiff smiles for the legal witnesses, he walked toward her across the dim hallway, his footsteps steady, his posture impossibly calm. Emma felt the panic rise in her chest. The contract said nothing about tonight. Nothing about expectations. Nothing about being alone with him in this mansion too big for 3 families. Liam stopped a few feet from her. His voice dropped, low and warm. Emma, he said, eyes holding hers with a gentleness she hadn't expected, you don't have to be afraid of me. Her fingers tightened around the bouquet. I'm not afraid, she lied. He exhaled, slow and deep, as if choosing his next words with care. Listen. I know today was overwhelming. I know this wasn't your dream. And I want you to hear this very clearly, I will not rush you. Her breath hitched. He stepped closer, but not too close, just enough to let her feel the safety instead of the power he carried so effortlessly. I'll be gentle, he continued softly. I'll take everything slow. This marriage may be a contract, but your comfort is not negotiable. You lead the pace, always. The weight in Emma's chest loosened, not completely, but just enough for air to finally reach her lungs. She nodded, unable to speak, overwhelmed by how different he was from the cold, untouchable CEO the world believed him to be. Liam offered his arm. Come on, he said. Let me show you where you'll be staying. Not our room. Not the master suite. Where you'll be staying. Respect. Space. Choice. And for the first time that day, Emma felt the faintest flicker of something she hadn't expected to feel tonight at all, relief. But she had no idea that upstairs, behind one locked door in this mansion, was the truth about why he really needed her, and the secret that would tear their fragile peace apart. Emma followed Liam up the sweeping staircase, her footsteps light but unsteady as the soft glow of the chandelier washed over the hallway. Every detail of the mansion felt unreal, like she had wandered into someone else's life and was afraid to breathe too loudly in case it all vanished. Liam walked a half step ahead of her, not rushing, keeping his pace gentle, deliberate, as if he understood exactly how overwhelming everything felt for her tonight. When he opened the door to a spacious guest suite, Emma blinked. in surprise. It was beautiful, warm, and far bigger than her entire apartment. A king-sized bed dressed in white linen sat near tall windows that overlooked the city. A small reading nook glowed under a soft lamp, stocked with books arranged by color. Even the air smelled subtly of lavender, as if someone had prepared the room specifically to calm whoever slept there. Liam stepped aside. "This will be your room," he said quietly. "If you need anything, call for Anna or text me. I will be down the hall, but I will not come in without your permission, I give you my word." His tone was steady, respectful, and something inside her loosened again. "Thank you," she whispered, smoothing the edge of her borrowed dress. Liam watched her for a moment, not with intensity, but with a kind of quiet awareness, like he was making sure she was truly all right before leaving her alone. "Get some rest, Emma," he said. "Today was a lot." He turned and walked back into the hallway. And just before the door closed, he added softly, "You are safe here." The latch clicked. Emma stood still for a long moment, listening to her own breathing and the faint hum of the city below. When she finally changed out of her dress and into a cotton robe neatly folded on the bed, she caught her reflection in the mirror. She barely recognized the woman staring back. A wife. A bride. A contract partner to one of the most powerful men in the city. And yet, she felt no threat, no pressure, no expectation. Only a strange, confusing tenderness lingering in his voice. She let herself sink onto the bed, but sleep did not come easily. Her thoughts kept circling back to the locked door she had noticed at the end of the hallway. The only door Liam had not acknowledged. The only door that seemed out of place in a home so carefully curated. Why did he keep it locked? And why had he looked away so quickly when he saw her glance at it earlier? That tiny mystery sat heavy in her mind. But another thought pushed its way forward, softer, more vulnerable. The way he had said, "You lead the pace." She had expected a cold businessman. Instead she found a man carrying something heavy, something unspoken. A man who kept a locked door in his own home. A man who offered protection before expectations. When she finally drifted off, it was not fear that followed her into sleep, but a quiet curiosity. Meanwhile, down the hall, Liam stood in front of that locked door, his hand resting on the doorknob but not turning it. His jaw tightened, his breath uneven for the first time all night. Inside that room was the reason he had chosen Emma. The reason he needed this marriage. And the reason he had sworn to go slow. "Not yet," he murmured to himself. "She is not ready to know." He turned away, the hallway empty and silent, unaware that tomorrow would bring the first crack in the careful distance he had promised to keep. Morning sunlight streamed across the guest suite, waking Emma with a warmth she had not felt in weeks. For a brief second she forgot where she was, then the memory of the night before returned in a quiet rush, like a wave touching the shore. The mansion. The contract marriage. Liam's steady voice promising that she was safe. She sat up slowly, rubbing her eyes, and noticed a tray on the small table near the window. Fresh blueberries, warm toast, and a handwritten note in neat, angular handwriting that read, "Breakfast. No pressure to come downstairs. Take your time. L." The gentleness of it tugged at her chest in a way she was not prepared for. She ate a small bite of toast and wandered to the window, because the city view was impossible to ignore. Towering buildings stretched into the sky, their glass surfaces catching the morning sun like tiny mirrors. Somewhere down there was her old apartment, her old problems, her old life. She had stepped out of that world yesterday, but she had no idea how to live in this new one yet. A soft knock echoed through the room. Emma startled, pulling her robe tighter. "Emma." Liam's voice floated through the door, calm but not intrusive. "Are you awake? May I come in?" "Yes," she said quickly, suddenly aware of how messy her hair was. The door opened a small distance, and he stepped inside, stopping immediately to give her space. His suit jacket was off, his sleeves rolled up, making him look less like the untouchable CEO she had seen in financial magazines and more like a man who had not slept much. "I hope you found breakfast," he said. I asked Anna to bring something light. I did, she said, offering a small smile. Thank you. It was very thoughtful. His shoulders eased, almost imperceptibly, as if her comfort mattered more to him than he let on. There is something I need to show you, he said. It is part of the agreement that we should appear together today at a meeting with the board, but before that, I want you to understand why this arrangement was necessary in the first place. Her breath paused. He was opening up, faster than she expected. Is it about the locked door? She asked before she could stop herself. Liam froze just long enough for her to notice. His eyes shifted, not with anger, but with a quiet pain that felt too raw to belong to a man as controlled as he was. In a way, he said. But not yet. That room holds parts of my life that I am not ready to share. Not until you feel more at ease here. He drew in a slow breath. But there are things you should know before you stand beside me today. Emma nodded. He gestured for her to follow, and they walked down the hallway. This time Emma noticed the way Liam's hand brushed his pocket every few steps, as if checking for something. A letter. A document. Whatever it was, it mattered. They stopped in front of a large framed photo hanging near the staircase. It showed Liam with another man, older, wearing the same sharp jawline and serious expression. Liam's father. The late founder of Hayes Industries. My father built everything you see, Liam said quietly. He was brilliant, ambitious, and feared by half the board. When he passed, control of the company was split. I took his place, but some people believe I am not capable of leading. Emma studied his face. That is not true. To you, maybe, he said, a faint, humorless smile tugging at his lips. To them, appearances matter. Stability matters. Marriage matters. Emma felt the pieces click together. The rushed proposal. The contract. The urgency in his voice. They want a married CEO, she murmured. He nodded. A stable family image quiets the board and prevents a takeover. If I had not acted quickly, Hayes Industries would be in the hands of people who do not care about its employees or its legacy. Emma swallowed gently. And me. Liam looked at her, really looked, like he was letting himself feel something he had been avoiding. You, he said softly, were the first person who looked at me without expecting anything. You were honest, and kind, and real. I needed someone I could trust, even if this began as a contract. Her chest tightened. She was not sure what she had expected, but it was not this quiet vulnerability. Liam turned toward the staircase. Come. There is more you should see before the meeting. And after that? I will answer what I can. One step at a time. Slow, just like I promised. Emma followed him, unaware that the truth waiting beyond the next door would change the way she saw him forever. Emma followed Liam down the last few steps as the atmosphere in the mansion shifted from quiet morning calm to something heavier, something with history woven into the walls themselves. He led her toward a second-floor gallery she had not noticed before, lined with canvases, sketches, and framed blueprints. Sunlight filtered through tall windows, casting soft gold across the drawings. Most were architectural sketches, floor plans, and old renovation drafts that showed the evolution of the Hayes estate. But one drawing stopped Emma in her tracks. It was a portrait. A woman in a garden, holding a sketchbook. The lines were soft, unfinished, but deeply emotional. Who is she? Emma asked, instinct guiding her voice to a whisper. Liam's jaw tightened. My mother. Emma's heart softened. She recognized the tenderness in the strokes, the quiet devotion behind every line. Liam stepped closer to the frame, not touching it but clearly feeling the weight of it. She passed away before my father did, he said. She was the only calm in this house, the only softness he ever allowed himself to have. He paused, his eyes fixed on the portrait like he was seeing a ghost instead of a memory. She used to draw. She loved art, like you do. Sometimes I think that is why I noticed you that day at the coffee shop. You were sketching the view from the window, and you looked. He stopped himself, shaking his head slightly. It does not matter. Emma felt a warmth rise in her chest even though he had cut himself off. She wondered what word he had almost used. Peaceful? Beautiful? Familiar? Liam inhaled slowly. After she died, my father locked this entire gallery. He said it was a distraction, and distractions made you weak. I reopened it after taking over the house. Emma sensed the deeper meaning behind his words. Because you did not want to forget her, she said gently. He nodded, still facing the drawings. Because I could not let the last gentle part of this home disappear. His voice was quiet, controlled, but Emma could hear the emotion beneath it. This was the man the world did not know. The man behind the boardroom table. The man behind the contract marriage. The man who carried heartbreak like it was a second skin he never asked for. Liam finally turned back to her. I wanted you to see this before the meeting, he said. Because today, people will judge us, question us, try to read between lines that are none of their business. But I need you to know that whatever image we present, it is not built on lies. It is built on survival, and maybe something else that I am still trying to understand. Emma nodded, her voice steady even though her heart was not. I will stand beside you, Liam. Something flickered in his eyes, something almost vulnerable. He offered his arm, formal yet tender. Then let us face them together. They drove to the Hayes Industries headquarters, the city reflecting off the tinted windows of the black sedan. Emma watched pedestrians blur past, each unaware of the fake marriage she was about to walk into a boardroom with. The building rose like a steel monument, shimmering under the morning sun. Inside, the lobby buzzed with employees moving briskly between elevators, their eyes widening when they noticed Liam enter with a woman at his side. Emma felt their stares, but Liam gently placed a hand at her back, a silent reassurance. Do not worry about them, he murmured. They answer to me, not the other way around. The elevator doors opened on the executive floor. A row of board members waited behind a long glass table, their expressions sharp, assessing, already calculating. Emma inhaled quietly. This was the public test she had been warned about. Liam stepped forward, shoulders squared. Gentlemen and ladies, he said with cool authority, before we begin the vote. On the merger proposal, I would like to introduce my wife, Emma Hayes. Whispers shot across the room like sparks. Some curious, some skeptical, some clearly disapproving. Emma kept her posture steady, her chin lifted just enough to signal dignity. Liam's hand brushed hers under the table, subtle but intentional. A gesture that said, you are not alone. She did not know it yet, but this moment, the boardroom, the whispers, the tension, would mark the start of something neither of them had planned for. Something real growing beneath the contract they had signed. The room fell into a tense silence as every pair of eyes shifted between Liam and Emma, measuring, judging, digging for cracks in their unity. Emma felt the weight of those stares, but she kept her expression calm, remembering what Liam had told her in the car, do not try to impress them. Just be yourself. That is enough. The oldest board member, a sharply dressed man named Mr. Whitmore, leaned forward with a thin smile that held no warmth. Congratulations, Mr. Hayes. Your marriage is sudden. His gaze slid to Emma. Very sudden. Liam's voice stayed polite, but steel threaded through it. Life does not always follow corporate scheduling. I trust that will not affect today's agenda. Another board member, a woman with red-framed glasses, inspected Emma like she was a puzzle piece that did not fit. And Mrs. Hayes, what is your background? Emma swallowed quietly, knowing this was the moment that could make or break everything. I am an art teacher, she said clearly, her voice steady even though her heart fluttered. Part-time until recently. A few eyebrows lifted, not kindly. Whitmore gave a soft, mocking chuckle. An art teacher. How lovely. And how did you and our CEO meet? That question hung in the air like a trap. Liam's fingers brushed hers again, subtle support, grounding her. Emma spoke before fear could swallow her words. "We met at a coffee shop," she said. "He noticed me sketching, and we started talking. It was unexpected, but real. Sometimes the most important things in life happen quietly." Liam turned his head slightly, looking at her with a softness he could not hide. Whitmore's smile tightened. The board exchanged glances, clearly expecting Liam to falter or hesitate, but he remained perfectly composed. "If we can return to the merger proposal," Liam said, reclaiming the room with a single sentence. The meeting dragged on for nearly an hour, filled with charts, projections, and pointed questions meant to undermine Liam's authority. But every time someone tried to push harder, Liam responded with calm, razor-sharp logic. Emma watched him carefully. The controlled tone. The firm posture. The subtle tension in his jaw. This was the man he had been forced to become. Not hard, not cold, but constantly defending his worth. When the final slide came to a close, Whitmore stood. "We will vote now." The board members whispered among themselves while Liam and Emma stepped aside near the wall. Emma kept her voice low. "You handled everything perfectly." "I am used to fighting for what should already be mine," Liam said quietly. But today felt different. She looked at him, puzzled. "How?" He met her eyes with the faintest hint of vulnerability. "Because I was not standing alone this time." Before she could respond, the board finished their vote. The red-framed glasses woman cleared her throat. "The merger proposal has been denied. For now." Liam nodded, unsurprised. Whitmore added, "But we will be observing your new marriage closely. Stability is very important, Mr. Hayes. You understand." Liam did not flinch, but Emma noticed the way his fingers curled slightly. When they stepped into the hallway, away from the boardroom, Emma finally exhaled. "They do not trust you," she said softly. Liam gave a humorless laugh. "They never have." They walked toward the elevator, but just as the doors began to close, a voice called out. "Mrs. Hayes." Emma turned to see the woman with the red glasses approaching. Her expression had softened, just slightly. "You spoke with sincerity in there. That room does not see sincerity very often." Emma blinked, unsure how to respond. The woman continued, "If you care for him, even just a little, stay steady. He has more enemies than he realizes." The elevator doors closed before Emma could ask what she meant. The car descended in a hush of soft mechanical hum. Liam watched her carefully. "Are you all right?" "Yes," she said, but her mind spun with questions. When they stepped out onto the main floor, flashes erupted instantly. Cameras. Reporters. Microphones raised like weapons. "Mr. Hayes, is it true your marriage was arranged to stabilize your company? Mrs. Hayes, what is your real connection to Hayes Industries? Is this a publicity stunt to manipulate shareholders?" Emma froze, blinded by the sudden chaos. Reporters surged closer. Someone brushed her shoulder. Another shouted her name. Then she felt it, a warm, steady hand closing around hers. Liam pulled her gently but firmly to his side, shielding her with his presence. His voice cut through the noise, deep and unwavering. "My wife is not a spectacle," he said. "Back away." The crowd hesitated. Emma looked up at him, startled by the fierce protectiveness in his tone. In that moment, she understood something important. This was no longer just a contract to him. Not after today. And the world had just noticed. When the security team finally cleared a path through the flashing cameras, Liam guided Emma into the waiting car with a steady hand on her back, his jaw tight with a controlled anger that did not raise its voice but simmered beneath the surface. The doors shut, sealing them away from the noise, leaving only the muted sound of their breaths and the faint hum of the engine. Emma's pulse was still racing, her fingers trembling slightly from the sudden barrage of questions, but Liam kept her hand in his, anchoring her. "I am sorry you had to face that," he said, his voice low, steady, protective in a way that surprised even him. You should not have been thrown into that chaos on your second day here. Emma shook her head gently. You warned me it would be difficult. I just did not expect it to feel so overwhelming. His thumb brushed the back of her hand, a subtle gesture that she felt far too deeply. From now on, he said, you do not face anything alone. If they come after you, they deal with me first. Emma met his eyes, and for the first time since the courthouse wedding, she felt something shift between them, something warmer and more fragile than the contract they had signed. When the car arrived back at the mansion, Liam waited for Emma to step out before following her up the stairs. The house was silent again, a stark contrast to the storm they had just escaped. Emma paused in the entry hall, taking a slow breath. Liam, she said softly, what that board member told me, does it worry you? Liam removed his jacket, draping it over the back of a chair. Which part? That you have more enemies than you realize. His expression tightened the way it had when she mentioned the locked door days earlier. There are people who want control of Hayes Industries, he said carefully. And they would use anything to get it. Even your presence in my life. Even our marriage. Emma absorbed the weight of that revelation. So someone might try to harm you. He hesitated, the silence answered for him. We will handle it, he finally said. Together. She nodded, but the worry stayed in her chest like a stone. Liam walked toward the staircase and paused. Emma, there is something I want to show you. Her heart skipped, recognizing the tone from before, the one he used when deciding whether or not to trust her with something important. Is it about the locked room? She asked. He did not answer immediately, but his eyes held hers with a quiet intensity. Come with me, he said. He led her not upstairs, but toward the west wing of the house, an area she had not explored. The hallway grew narrower, older, the lights dimmer. It felt like walking into the past. They stopped in front of a door with a brass handle worn smooth from years of use. Liam pressed his hand against it, but did not turn the knob. Before we go in, I need you to understand something, he said. This marriage may have started as a contract, but everything I have shown you so far is real. My family, my struggles, my fears, none of it is part of an act. Emma listened quietly, her heartbeat picking up. Then why keep this room locked? His voice softened. Because what is in here is the part of my life I have not let anyone see since the day my father died. I kept it locked because opening it meant accepting that some things cannot be fixed by power or wealth. He finally turned the knob. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a room filled with dust-covered canvases, a large easel, and a single wooden rocking chair positioned near the window. Emma stepped inside, her eyes widening as she noticed what sat on the chair, a folded quilt with the initials MH embroidered on the corner, faded but still intact. Liam's voice broke the silence, low and raw. It was my mother's studio, he said. I locked it the night she passed. I could not bear to see anything in here. Emma looked around at the unfinished paintings leaning against the walls. Soft landscapes. Gentle portraits. A love of art passed from mother to son, then buried under grief. She turned back to him slowly. Liam, why show me this now? He looked at her with a sincerity that made her breath catch. Because you understand art, he said. And you understand loss. I thought maybe you could help me open this room again. Emma felt her throat tighten, moved by the trust he had placed in her. I can, she whispered. But only if you are ready. Liam stepped closer, the distance between them shrinking until she could feel the warmth of his presence. With you here, he said gently, I think I finally am. She did not notice the shadow moving past the cracked doorway, or the faint click of a phone capturing the moment. But the person outside did. And they planned to use it. The air in the studio felt fragile, as if one wrong breath could shatter the memory suspended in the dust-filled sunlight. Emma stood beside Liam, feeling the weight of the moment. It was the first time he had allowed anyone into this room since his mother passed away, the first time he had opened a part of himself he had kept locked behind steel walls for years. she studied the canvases leaning against the walls, each one holding a piece of his mother's quiet soul, and she noticed the way Liam's shoulders eased as he watched her take everything in without judgment. "Thank you for trusting me with this," she said softly. Liam did not answer immediately. Instead, he reached for a cloth on the table and wiped a thin layer of dust from the rocking chair, his movement slow and reverent. "My father could walk into a boardroom and command every voice in the room, but when she painted, it quieted him," he said quietly. This was the only place where he stopped being the CEO and just became a husband. Emma looked at him, seeing the vulnerability he carried like a shadow. "Grief does not disappear," she said gently. "But it can soften when you share it." Liam met her eyes, and something warm flickered there, a silent thank you he could not bring himself to say aloud. She stepped closer to a canvas draped with a white sheet and hesitated. "May I?" He nodded. Emma lifted the sheet, revealing an unfinished portrait of a young Liam standing beside his mother in the garden. The boy in the painting was smiling shyly, his hand clutching a sketchbook, his mother's gentle hand resting on his shoulder. Emma felt her heart pull. "You used to draw," she whispered. Liam looked away. "I stopped the day she died. It felt wrong to keep doing something she loved when she was no longer here to see it." Emma turned fully toward him. "Or maybe it felt too painful because it reminded you of her?" The truth settled between them, and for a moment, the studio did not feel haunted but hopeful. Liam opened his mouth to speak, but a faint vibration in his pocket interrupted him. He frowned, checking his phone, his expression hardened instantly. "What is it?" Emma asked. He held the phone so she could see. It was a message from an unknown number, containing a single photo, Emma and Liam standing close together in the studio, the soft light catching their faces in an intimate, unguarded moment. Beneath it, a sentence: "Does the board know you are spending private time with your wife in your mother's locked room?" Emma's breath caught. "Someone was here," she whispered. "Someone took that picture." Liam scanned the room quickly, his protective instincts rising. "We were followed," he said. "Someone has been watching the house." Emma felt a chill slide down her spine. "Liam, does this have to do with the enemies you mentioned?" He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. "Someone wants to destabilize me, Emma. They want the board to believe this marriage is inappropriate, emotional, unprofessional. If they can tarnish my reputation, they can push me out and take the company." Emma swallowed. "But we did nothing wrong." "To people like them," Liam said quietly, "truth is whatever benefits them the most." He stepped closer, the fear in his eyes muted by determination. "I will handle this. I will not let anyone threaten you." "I am not afraid for myself," she said. "I am afraid for you." His gaze softened, and for a moment, the tension between them faded. But then another message appeared on the screen, more threatening than the first: "Tell your wife to smile proudly while she can. The next board meeting will not be as forgiving." Emma felt her stomach twist. "They are coming after both of us." Liam looked toward the doorway, his jaw clenched. "Then let them come," he said. "Because I am done letting shadows control my life." But neither of them knew that the person behind those messages was not a stranger. It was someone inside the company. Someone who knew exactly how to hurt him. The next morning, the air in the mansion was thick with a quiet kind of tension. Emma had barely slept, her thoughts racing through every detail of the previous night, the threatening messages, the shadowy presence that seemed to be closing in around them. She had never felt so exposed, yet Liam's unwavering presence at her side kept her grounded. As the day unfolded, the weight of their situation became undeniable. The board meeting was approaching, and the rumors about their marriage were already circulating like wildfire. "We need to move quickly," Liam said, his voice steady but carrying the weight of a man who had been running on empty for too long. Emma sat across from him in the small library, watching him prepare for the upcoming confrontation. His usual calm demeanor was now sharpened by the growing pressure, and it was clear that whatever battle he had been fighting for years was coming to a head. "What do you need me to do?" Emma asked quietly. Liam looked up at her, his expression softening. Stay by my side. Don't let them get to you." The reassurance in his voice was meant to comfort her, but Emma could see the lines of worry etched deep into his face. She could sense that the battle ahead wasn't just about the company, it was about everything he had built, and everything he stood to lose. As they walked into the boardroom that afternoon, the atmosphere was thick with expectation. The members of the board had already gathered, their faces tight with curiosity, their eyes flicking between Liam and Emma as they entered. The moment they stepped inside, the room fell silent, the air heavy with the weight of unspoken questions. "Mr. Hayes," said Whitmore, the oldest board member, his voice cold. "It seems we have a new dynamic in the room today. Mrs. Hayes." He turned to Emma, his gaze sharp. "I trust you're prepared to speak on your role in this arrangement." Liam's jaw clenched, and Emma felt the familiar flutter of nerves in her stomach. She had prepared for this, but now that the moment was here, the words felt like they were trapped in her throat. But then Liam spoke, his voice cutting through the tension. "We are here to discuss business, not personal matters," he said firmly, his gaze fixed on Whitmore. "And I expect our privacy to be respected." Whitmore didn't flinch, but there was a flicker of irritation in his eyes. "Of course," he said, his tone dripping with insincerity. "But one must admit, the marriage of convenience does raise questions. How can the board trust that this union is in the best interest of the company?" Emma felt the sting of Whitmore's words, but she refused to let it show. She turned to Liam, who gave her a small nod of encouragement. She had never been more grateful for his quiet support. Taking a deep breath, she spoke, her voice steady and clear. "This marriage may have started as a contract," she said, meeting Whitmore's gaze with quiet strength. "But it is built on trust, respect, and a shared goal. I believe in this company, and I believe in Liam. We are both here to ensure the future of Hayes Industries." Her words hung in the air for a moment, the room still. For a brief second, there was silence, and then Whitmore spoke again, his voice colder. "Very well," he said, "but let us see how long this trust lasts when the next issue comes to light." The tension in the room grew thicker, and Emma could see the doubt in the eyes of some of the other board members. It was clear that this meeting was not about finding solutions but about testing the strength of Liam's leadership and their marriage. As the meeting dragged on, Emma noticed the subtle shifts in Liam's demeanor. His answers became shorter, his focus sharper, as though he was pulling away from the conversation. She could feel the distance between them growing, like a quiet storm on the horizon, and she knew something was wrong. As the meeting finally drew to a close, Liam stood and addressed the room one last time. "I will not let this company fall to people who do not understand its heart," he said, his voice low but firm. "And I will protect what matters most, my family, my legacy, and the future of Hayes Industries." His words landed with finality, and the room fell silent. It was clear that the battle for control had only just begun, but Emma had never seen him so resolute, so certain in his purpose. As they left the room, the door closing behind them with a soft click, Emma turned to him, her voice barely a whisper. "You were incredible in there." Liam's eye softened as he glanced at her, a brief smile flickering across his face. "We're in this together, Emma," he said quietly. "And no matter what happens, I will never let them tear us apart." The words were simple, but they carried the weight of everything that had led them here: trust, vulnerability, and the growing connection between them. As they walked down the hallway toward the elevator, Emma felt a strange peace settle over her. They had survived the first test, but she knew there were more to come. And this time, they would face them together. The days following the board meeting were a blur of strategy sessions, whispers in the halls, and the constant tension of being watched. Liam had done everything to shield Emma from the worst of it, but she could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on them both. The threats kept coming, some subtle, others not so much. At night, they could hear the quiet hum of the security system, a reminder that they were not just fighting for control of a company, they were fighting for their lives to remain intact. Liam spent hours in meetings, his face always a mask of composure, but Emma saw the lines deepening around his eyes. She had never imagined this world of high-stakes corporate warfare, but she was learning quickly. The more time they spent together, the more Emma began to understand just how much Liam had sacrificed. It was not just about the company, it was about everything he had built, everything he had lost, and everything he was trying to protect. Despite the growing pressure, there were moments of quiet between them, moments when Liam would look at her as if seeing her for the first time. He would offer a soft smile, a brief touch on her hand, and for a moment, all the noise and chaos of their world seemed to fade away. One evening, as they sat in the library, Emma looked up from the book she was reading. Liam was sitting across from her, his laptop open, but his attention was on her. "You know," he said quietly, "I never thought I would have someone to share all this with. I spent so many years hiding in plain sight, running the company, protecting it, but I never let anyone in." Emma put her book down and met his gaze. "I don't think you had anyone to trust," she said softly. "You had to carry everything alone." He nodded, his expression momentarily distant. "And now you're here," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't expect this connection. But now that you're here, I can't imagine doing this without you." The sincerity in his words made Emma's chest tighten. It was the first time he had spoken so openly about his feelings, and for the first time, Emma felt the depth of what they had built. It wasn't just about the marriage, the contract, or the company. It was about them, two people who had been thrown together by circumstance, but who were beginning to carve out something real, something meaningful. As the days passed, the attacks from within the company grew more intense. They had suspected there was a mole, someone who was leaking information to their competitors, but they had no concrete proof. Then, one day, it all came to a head. Liam was summoned to an emergency board meeting, and Emma went with him, her presence no longer just symbolic but essential. As they sat in the conference room, the tension was palpable. The air felt thick with anticipation, and Emma could feel her heart beating in her chest. Liam sat at the head of the table, his posture confident, but his eyes betraying a flicker of uncertainty. "We have identified the source of the leaks," Whitmore said, his voice cutting through the room like a knife. "And we have proof that it came from within." The room went silent as everyone turned their attention to Liam. Emma's mind raced. Was this the moment? Was everything about to unravel? Liam didn't flinch. "Who?" he asked, his voice steady. Whitmore hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "It was Nathan Hayes," he said, his eyes locking with Liam's. "Your half-brother." The room erupted in murmurs, and Emma's heart sank. Liam's face remained unchanged, but she could see the anger flicker behind his eyes. Nathan. His estranged half-brother, the one person Liam had tried to keep out of his life. Emma had heard about Nathan before, about his attempts to take over the family business, about the years of rivalry between him and Liam. But this? This was a betrayal that ran deeper than anything she had imagined. "I should have known," Liam said quietly, almost to himself. "He's been waiting for his chance." He looked at Whitmore. "What's the next step?" Whitmore's lips curled into a thin smile. "The next step is yours, Mr. Hayes. You decide how to handle this." Liam stood, his decision clear in his eyes. "I will handle this personally," he said. "And Nathan will not take anything from me, and not the company, not my family, and not my future." With that, he turned to Emma, his hand reaching for hers, and for the first time in days, he seemed at peace. "We will take care of this," he said. "Together." Emma nodded, her heart swelling with a mixture of fear and hope. This battle was far from over, but in this moment, they were united, stronger than they had ever been before. And as they left the boardroom, Liam's arm around her shoulders, Emma knew that no matter what came next, they would face it as a team, side by side.